Hello and welcome to Golf Mindset Mastery Podcast. Today's guest is Rolf Stauffer, and he is CEO of Body Mind Golf. Rolf's idea of the golf swing is going to be different to yours, and that makes this podcast a great, interesting listen. Well, that's what me and Duncan found anyway. We were fascinated with what Rolf had to say and his ideas that he has to offer, especially towards the end, his idea on grip pressure. I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as me and Duncan and Rolf enjoyed making it. Let's get into it. So, Rolf, it's great to have you on. We met in Mind Factor 20, class of 23.
That's right.
Rolf's another Mind Factor coach, master status. So, when I met Rolf, he told me about his school in Switzerland, and I found it very interesting. So I've invited him onto the podcast to tell us all about it, because I'm sure as a listener you'll find it interesting too. So, Rolf, please introduce yourself.
Well, thank you very much for having me on and for inviting me, Ben. I really appreciate that. Yeah, the company's called Body Mind Golf. So we work on the body side, not really technical training. We don't do any technical training. We do more kind of body analysis. And we work on the mind side. So what's going on in the brain. So it's a great combination for people to learn a lot about themselves and how to play golf better.
And how did you start?
Okay. Yeah, it's quite an interesting story how I started, because I was originally living in the UK and playing a lot of golf and really enjoying it. And then I moved to Switzerland and I had like an 8-year break, and golf was like really expensive in Switzerland. And I was at an age where I wasn't so much interested in golf anymore, around kind of 20, 21, 22. And then my father became a member of a club and said, "Hey, why don't you start again?" And I officially at the time had handicap 6 still. And after 8 years of not playing golf, when I joined the club, my best rounds were like 14 over par. And I was with a handicap 6, I was really embarrassed. And then my girlfriend at the time, she gave me a book called The Inner Game of Golf from Timothy Galloway. Quite a famous book on mental training, on the thoughts that you should have in your mind. And so I read this book, and within like 2 weeks, I was playing back to my handicap 6, and I was like, "That is amazing." And so I thought, I've got to pass this on to other people. I mean, I've just had such a great experience of being able to improve my golf so well, and then I wanted to start teaching other people that. And initially, we started with my girlfriend at the time. We started teaching NLP for golfers. So we did an NLP practitioner specifically for people who play golf, and added a few extra days in and applied all the NLP strategies to golf. And we did that a few years. And that was great. And then I really started just teaching golf psychology. I called it at the time Golf in Mind, because it was just the mental side. And the first course was like, it was 2 evenings, like 7 till 10, group of people, and like 12 people. And it was just indoors, didn't go out on the range or anything. And I had a couple in there, husband and wife. And like 2 or 3 weeks later, we had a tournament. I played in the tournament as well. And they were just playing behind me in different flights. And she came in, I saw her on the 18th green, and she looked very happy. And I went over to her and said, "Well, how did it go?" And she was like, "Oh, it's unbelievable. I played," she had a handicap just over 30, and she played 10 shots under a handicap after the 10 course. And I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." A couple of flights later, her husband comes in, and he had a handicap 28 at the time, and he played 20 over par, so 8 shots under his handicap. And I was like, "Wow,
you're a genius."
Yeah, so I've got to keep doing this, yeah. And I enjoyed teaching, and it wasn't always easy to get the people at the beginning, because this was back in '95, and golf psychology was like very rare at the time and very exotic. And but I kept doing it because I enjoyed doing it, and in particular, I noticed there are 2 things, 2 main motivations at the time. One of them was I just enjoy helping other people, and when they make progress, it's just fantastic for me, and I've been able to help them. And the other thing that I noticed, and that was really interesting, every time I gave a course, I played better golf myself. So I started planning my courses. Club championships is in this week. Okay, on Tuesday I'm going to do this course, and here I've got a tournament in another club, so I'm going to do this course there, and that's how it really started off. So it was it was just people started to make progress. They started talking about it, and I started getting more and more people. That was the early days back in '95 to about 2000 was a slow start, but I just enjoy doing it. Yeah.
That's amazing. And to have them improvements, because as mind factor coaches, in my clients, I've seen handicap reductions of 4 and like 8 this year, and multiple board comp winners at their respected golf clubs. So we know this stuff really can help people improve, but we're still pushing against the tide, aren't we, a little bit? But it's great that your school is doing this, and you've had some amazing results. That's amazing. What do you think, Dunk?
I was going to say, it would have been in about 1995 that I first got introduced to the psychology part of it, and it was with NLP. Some guy with the biggest pork chop beards in the world. And I think I've told you, Ben, we were minnows compared to the big clubs in Northamptonshire. And we had this sports psychologist, NLP, a few little things, and we punched well above our weight, winning it two years out of 3. So, as you said, Ben, it does work.
Yeah, and Rolf, I'm actually going to get an inner game coach on the podcast soon, who knows Tim Galway, and he's one of his accredited coaches. So, looking forward to that one, because it was an inspiration to you, and that formula that keeps getting quoted from the Tim Galloway books of performance is equal to potential minus interference stands the test of time, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
So tell us about your theories then, Rolf. How has your school developed from what it was to what it is now?
Yeah, well, about 8 or 9 years ago, I met a guy called Walter Pitchford, who he's a PGA pro, but he's worked for 7 years in physiotherapy, specifically for golf injuries. So he knows a lot about the body, and he kind of developed his own method of teaching, which is not based on technical training. It's based more on how the body works. And so he was working for the company for several years. He moved over to Switzerland, and he trained myself, and he trained all our trainers. And we still work together a little bit now. We do a couple of golf trips together in winter, but he's not in Switzerland anymore. But I got to a point where we kind of developed it further together. And so the whole body side of body mind golf is all about how the body functions, how the body works. So we all have things, joints that don't work properly, or muscles that are stiff or shortened and things like that. And so it's sometimes very difficult to make the perfect movement as we should according to a technical golf swing. And so we kind of see what can the body do, and we help the person move in a certain way so they don't have any pain, they're not doing any damage to the body, and it's a natural, neutral movement for their own body. And we find a way of getting them to swing a club so that so they can hit the ball well. I mean, I can give you a specific example. I had a lady once, she had a very serious car injury, as a car accident, and had an injury on a left wrist. And she couldn't rotate her left arm beyond like vertical. It kind of just stopped at vertical. And she couldn't open the hand fully. And so I just helped her change the grip a bit so that she could still have the same movement of the arm, the hand turning, wrist turning. And within 10 minutes, she doubled her driver distance just by giving her a different grip and a different way to hold the club. And we experience a lot of things like that on the body side. So people who do, we don't have that many people that have serious injuries, but we do have that. And when they have that, we can really help them a lot. Yeah, a lot of people have smaller things. Maybe their hips don't turn as well in one direction as the other, and so we do kind of body screenings, we call it. So we do body analysis, we do tests with them, and find out how the body functions, how it works, and put everything back to neutral. So, for example, if they struggle in the follow through, and they experience resistance when they swing through the ball, and they can only, let's say, swing comfortably to like halfway up their body, let's say maybe up to the shoulders with the hands, and then the body doesn't function anymore. But in the backswing, they can easily like even overswing. Then we can change a few things in the setup so that it evens it out. So the backswing length and the follow-through length are the same length. And then they have a natural movement for their own body.
And Rolf, I just ask, I know you look at the way they adapt, people's got restrictions and so forth, but have you actually looked at the science behind all your teaching philosophies?
Yes, we have. I mean, we base our whole work on how the body creates movement. And the body creates movement through the proprioceptive system. So we have like proprioceptors in our muscles, in our joints, and in our, what's the English word, sin, and all around the joints, yeah? The muscles around the joints. And they communicate with our central nervous system, which is in our spine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a good example, I mean, if some people are watching, they'd like to try something out, you can actually stand up on one leg and close your eyes, and then you'll notice how unstable you become. But you'll also realize that the small movements that you're making in your foot and your ankle to stabilize yourself, you're not actually controlling them with your brain. The body does it for you and keeps you in balance. So it's not the brain giving you specific instructions for specific muscles. It's the body keeps you in balance. And that's how the proprioceptive system works. And so if you apply that to a golf swing, it's not about achieving a specific position as it should be in the textbook. Yeah, it's about what position does your body naturally move to, and allowing the body to make that movement itself. So what controls the movement? That's the big question we have. If it's not your brain giving instructions, your hand should be in a certain position, what is it? And so a lot of our work is all based around feeling the weight of the club head. Because if you feel the weight of the club head, your body's got feedback of what's going on. So if you focus during the swing on feeling how the weight of the club head changes, and the faster the club moves, the heavier the club head feels. So down at the ball, just before contact, that club head should feel heaviest. If there was no ball there, it would be just after contact with the ball, because the club head should still be accelerating when it hits the ball. Yeah, and just after the ball is like the fastest point of the club head when there's no ball there, but with the ball, obviously the ball slows the club head down. So you feel the weight of the club and you respond based on that. And interestingly enough, people really struggle to feel the weight of the club at the beginning because they tense their muscles up. And as soon as you tense your muscles, you don't feel very much anymore. And so this is another big side to our concept, that as we're swinging, we don't want to use the power in the muscles. We want to use the elasticity of the muscles. And if you're using the elasticity, then your muscles remain relaxed. And if you think about it, relaxed muscles actually move faster than the muscles that are tensed up. So that's how we can still generate club head speed without like really trying to hit the ball hard. And the problem with trying to hit the ball hard is that you actually change your body position. So we spend so much time getting into a nice setup, and then you swing, and if you swing with too much power, you change the body position. The upper body will move up and down. And then the chance of hitting the ball out of the center of the club face becomes much more difficult. You have to adapt to it. Because if the body's coming down, you have to kind of shorten your arms so you still hit the ball nicely.
Yeah.
So it removes all those kinds of problems as well. So that's kind of the basis of the body side, what we teach on the body side.
Yeah, so in the mental side of the game, we have the big three: intention, attention, and attitude. So you're really homing in on the attention, aren't you?
Yes. Yep. That's one of the main intentions that we have is feeling the weight of the club. When you stand over the ball, you obviously look at the target, you stand behind the ball, and like in the pre-shot routine, you stand behind the ball, you'll choose a target, and then when you get to the ball, one of the thoughts that we'll have would be, can I feel the weight of the club during the swing? And on the mental side, what's really key is trying to observe feeling the weight of the club. So it's not trying to change it. If it feels heavier on the way down and it should be heavy near the ball, we're not trying to change that. We're just observing what happens. Because if you change something, you're actually doing that with your cognitive brain. So with the front of your brain. And the proprioceptive system works through the central nervous system, through the spine. And that communication system with the spine is about 2,000 times faster than the communication that happens with the brain. So even a swing, you notice something's wrong and you try to change it. By the time the signal's got from your brain back to your hands or whatever part of the swing you want to change, or your arms, then the club's in a completely different position and you're just bringing in a new error into the swing. So
Absolutely.
Just observing the weight of the club, just see what happens. Yeah.
That ties into like swing thoughts, doesn't it? Why we encourage people to have external swing thoughts and swing thoughts that aren't position specific.
Exactly.
So like the breath, or holding the image of the club in the image of the target, or in your case, have your attention on the club head, which let's face it, in golf, if we have the awareness of what that club head is doing in space and time, you're going to end up being a very good golfer.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. We also use a lot of different thoughts for our students. I mean, that's just one example, is the weight of the club head. But we also talk about imagining the flight of the ball, or imagine where the ball will land. Or we have things like how strongly am I holding the club? Is the left hand and the right hand the same strength in the hands, the same grip strength? Yeah. Is it the same grip strength during the whole swing? Or sometimes when people are in the backswing, at the top of the backswing, one of the hands may let go or just loosen up a bit. And so that could also be a focus to have during the swing. Just focus on the grip strength during the whole swing. So there's lots of different examples of where our thoughts should be during the swing. And that's also an important point, because generally the brain will get tired of thinking of one thought. And so once you've done it for a few shots, it'll kind of get lazy and easily be distracted with other things. And that's why after a few shots, you need to change the thought you're thinking during the swing. And we have loads of different thoughts that people try out. And then generally we get people to find like 2 to 5 thoughts that really work well for them. And then they take 2 or 3 thoughts out on the golf course, and they can continually change the thought that they're having during the swing. And that keeps the brain very, very active and very focused and very concentrated.
That's amazing. That's so interesting. I've never, ever thought of that before. And that's probably why we all know that swing thoughts, no matter what they are, for most golfers, would maximum only last a couple of weeks at best anyway. But what I'm noticing, Rolf, is everything you're describing is all in the present moment.
Exactly. That's a great point, Ben. It's very, very important that you stay in the present moment. If you think about our feelings, emotions that we have, emotions can massively destroy a swing. As soon as we get a negative emotion, what do our muscles do? They tense up, and so the rhythm's gone. So it's important that we try not to have emotions during the swing. And emotions, we create our emotions by going into the past and thinking about something that bothers us. That stupid putt on the last green, it was only 50 centimeters. How could I miss it? That's the emotions that we have. So we go into the past, we create emotions, but also we go into the future. We think, oh, the next hole, no, that next hole, I was always in the water hazard on the next hole. That's the emotions, because we fear what could happen on the next hole. So the more that we can stay in the present, the less emotions we have. And then we stay more focused with the task in hand, just with the intention and just with one thought during the swing. That's all it needs.
I like that minimize thoughts and things you think about. So Carl's big thing says have a dot on the ball and a dot on the club face and just match it up. Simple thing. And then we had the guy from the Trafford Golf Centre, from the actual driving range. I've never heard this before. He says, we can learn with a noodle and a chalk mark on the floor. Just hit the chalk mark constantly. Simplicity. And it takes all them, like you say, it takes all them complicated thoughts out of your head. Your body is clever. It'll find a way. It is.
Exactly. The body reacts much better to end results than to positions in a swing. There was an experiment done in America, I think it was Stanford University, I'm not sure which university it was, with darts. They had a dartboard, and they got people throwing darts at the dartboard. And then they wanted to try and make the movement consistent. So they told the people, focus on your arm movement and just make sure you move the arm exactly the same every time. And they did this, and when people focused on the arm movement, they noticed that the arm movement became more consistent. But the results on the dartboard, there was a bigger spread of what the dots were. And then they told them, okay, so now focus on where you want to hit the dartboard, the exact point of the way you want to hit it. And forget what your arm's doing. Doesn't matter what your arm does. If it becomes inconsistent, doesn't matter. And then they measured them, and they noticed the arm movement became less consistent. So there was more variety in the movement, but the darts were much better placed on the board. It was really, really interesting. And then they did a third experiment, which was also fascinating. Then they said, okay, now don't think about your arm movement and don't think about the results. Try and think about something completely not connected with throwing a dart. And so they picked focus on your breathing while you're throwing the darts. And what they noticed was the people who were proficient in throwing darts, who'd been throwing darts for a long time and were good at it, their skill level also improved when they just focused on the breath and they weren't even thinking about the end result. But the worst thing to think about is the movement that the body's making. It's so interesting. Yeah. And it's such a natural thing for us to want to do. We want to get the movement right, but it's not the right thoughts to have when you're playing golf. You need the end result is the best thing to have, yeah. Or just something abstract, something away from what you're doing. So not to interfere with the movement.
Yeah, because if you think on the first tier, any golf club, what percentage of golfer isn't thinking about what they're going to do in the swing? I think it's less than 1%.
I'm sure it is, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But like you say, another thing which is alarming, which only come to my attention a few months ago when I went to a Jane Story workshop, was the amount of golfers that probably don't even breathe while they're swinging. They hold the breath.
Exactly.
Do you find that a lot?
Yeah, a lot of people hold the breath, yeah. That's also one of the things that we do. One of the training techniques that we use is to consciously breathe during the swing. So you breathe in the backswing and you breathe out in the follow through, in the downswing and the follow through, and just as an exercise. And that's also that's just something to focus on that is really abstract to the movement. Similar to the darts experiment, focus on your breath. So if you focus on your breathing, it stops you thinking about what the club's doing and what the body's doing. Because our natural intent, our natural result when we're having a swing and we feel that the hands are in the wrong position, for example, we'll naturally want to correct that. Because we're never going to stand over the ball and say, oh, it doesn't matter where the ball goes. We always want a good shot. And so if we feel that something's wrong in the swing, we're going to naturally want to change it. And that's one of the worst things we can do. because then we're using our cognitive brain and no longer the proprioceptive system.
So if I was to come to you, Rolf, and I enrolled in your school, take me through what I'd experience.
Well, you'd have to learn German first. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
we can do training
Deutsch.
as well, of course. But yeah, what we start off generally with making the club more dominant. So one of the things we ask our students is, does the body follow the club, or does the club follow the body? And most people say, well, the body moves and then the body moves the club. So the club is following the body, but it's actually the other way around. If you're feeling the weight of the club, the body is responding to what the club's doing. So our first major goal is to make the club more dominant. People often, they hold the club so tightly, and then when they go to hit the ball, the body's moving all over the place, certainly the higher handicaps. And so that's the first thing we want to get away from, is the body moving too much. Try and stabilize the body. We have stability in the legs, but we have freedom of movement more in the upper body. And a really big key is getting all the joints to move. A lot of people, they'll have very stiff wrists at the top of the backswing. They'll have hardly any movement in the wrists, and then they just have to swing the body much faster. So we try and get all the joints moving from the foot, the ankle joint, the knee, the hips, the shoulders, everything, the wrists, everything's moving, and we allow free movement there. And when you achieve that, you get a much, much higher club head speed. And as soon as you're putting power into the swing, you're restricting the joint movement. So I think they're two really big keys, is that the club is very dominant, that you feel the weight of the club, that the body, there's not too much body movement, that you use all the joints. They're kind of the first steps that we're looking at. Yeah.
Do you actually work at a golf club, Rolf, as a golf pro?
Yeah, we have about 8 different clubs where we work. So I'm not actually based at one specific club. We have our own data bank of customers, and we plan several courses throughout the year, and we do that in different locations, and so that people living in different areas can attend our courses as well. And,
so people are a little bit shocked if they're coming for a golf lesson. They're expecting a traditional, you need to hear, you need this movement. Then you start saying, well, I'm going to blow that theory out of the water. And do people?
Sometimes it's a bit of a shock for people, because it's a very different form of training. But I would say everybody, I don't think I've ever had anybody that say, oh, this is weird training, I don't want to do this. I mean, everybody's absolutely fascinated by the way we teach, and they really want to learn more. I mean, they really enjoy the training because it's a different approach, and we get good results really quickly with people like that. Certainly.
I was say results. Results mean, everything to every golfer. If you're getting results,
yeah,
any method will do.
Exactly. They're hitting the ball further, and they're hitting the ball much more precisely as well.
And I guess enjoying it as well. The better you hit the ball, the more you enjoy the game, which is
exactly
what we're trying to sell to everybody, that golf's the game to enjoy.
Exactly. I always tell people, that's probably one of the reasons why you started to play golf, was because you thought you'd enjoy the game. But most people, when they get out on the course, they don't enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then you're not going to score well. So that's really key, that you can enjoy it and have fun. Mm.
I think that you've hit the nail on the head there, but it's like, for a lot of golfers, seems the impossible of enjoying yourself for 4.5 hours on a golf course. So many people find that difficult, but there's such a strong correlation. Enjoy yourself, your score improves, and it goes back to setting your intention at the start of the round, doesn't it? And one of the intentions I like to tell people to have is to just be a good playing partner.
That's great.
Because you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, it doesn't really matter what your score is at the end of it. You've had a good time. But you described me essentially when you described the golf swing of the stiff wrist and I have to move my body faster. So now you've got me scratching my head thinking, wow, what's my potential now? Like I'm a 2 handicap and I hit the ball, carry 250, and I'm like, well, maybe I can squeeze a bit more out of that.
Maybe. Yeah, if you free up your wrists, let the club move more. We always have a desire to control the club. And actually, we need to just let the club do the work. And that's probably mentally one of the more difficult challenges, certainly for better players that we have, is to let go of the control of the club and just let the club do the work for you.
Yeah. I've just got this train aid. I don't know if you've seen it before, Rolf. It's called GEM, Golf's Essential Move. So it's sort of a counterweight you put on the shaft, but it does actually make the club swing as it should do. And if you don't swing it properly, it like vibrates and wobbles all over the place.
Sounds good.
So it's worth looking at. Listening to how you're actually teaching it. Yeah, this sort of gives you instant feedback. And you don't actually hit balls with it, you just swing it. Like hip height. But it does that thing, you actually feel where the club should be.
Yeah. That sounds great. We have one training club that we use that has an extremely flexible shaft. It's called a G-Force.
Yep.
It's made in the UK. You probably know that. And as soon as you swing too quickly with that club, it just opens up the club face at contact and you just get a massive slice.
Yeah.
So it's all about feeling what the club head is doing and where the club head is and waiting until the club head's ready. And when you do that, you can actually hit the ball a long way with that club, even though it's the wobbly club, because it's all over the place. It's really, really bendy and.
So, Rolf, what drills or what advice would you give someone who's listening to this podcast that could maybe get a bit more flexibility, a bit more movement into their swings?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I would recommend go out and try swinging the club and try feeling the weight of the club. I would start with that and do it as a practice swing. So no ball, no contact with the ground, because then you feel the club more. And if you can feel the weight of the club during the swing without a ball and without ground contact, then take a ball. I would maybe initially just put it on a very small tee, like with a 7-iron, just on like a tee, like 0.5 centimeter high, just so you got a nice lie, and try hitting the ball and feeling the weight of the club. Most people really struggle to do that first time. So you do a few swings without the ball and then swing with the ball until you can feel the weight of the club. If you still can't feel it, what you can do is turn the club round and you hold the club at the end of the club where the club head is, but you hold it on the shaft, not the club head. You still hold it on the shaft with your normal grip. So the grip's down at the grip of the club is down on the ground, near the ground. And you do a practice swing without touching the ground, without touching a ball like that. And the club feels extremely light because the club head is up at your hand end. And you do 2 or 3 swings like that, the club feels super light, and then you turn the club around again, and when you then swing it, it feels extremely heavy. So it's just a way to help you feel more during the swing. And so you can either then do a practice swing with the club the right way around, it feels really heavy, and then do it with the ball, or you just go straight to the ball when you turn the club back around to normal again, and just try hitting the ball then. And I think with a bit of practice like that, you'll start to feel the weight of the club while you're hitting balls. And I think that's one of the first things that you need to find out. You need to try.
Certainly give that a go at the driving range.
Yeah.
If you want to win a Spurt golf mat as seen on Sky Sports, leave a comment. And once we reach 50 comments, a random winner will be chosen. By the time this podcast goes out, though, it could be the next Spurt mat to go out. Spurt mats are the best golf mats that there are to protect the fairways. They sit low to the ground, the teeth mean you get solid contact, and it's the closest thing you can get to playing off the fairway. Don't waste your time with any other mat. The plastic ones can sit too high, the free ones are just too flimsy, and it can make winter golf quite miserable. So enter the competition to win a Spurt golf mat. The review must be left on Spotify, and good luck.
So from my experience with the really bendy shaft, do you do the step drills as well?
We have one exercise like that that we use in particular around the chipping green. We don't actually do it with that G-force club. We do it with just a normal club, with a normal pitching wedge or sand wedge. So we'll be standing at address over the ball in normal position, and then as we do the backswing, we'll move for a right-handed player. Yeah? So the left leg, the leg that's closer to the target, we'll move the left leg to the right leg in the backswing. And then when we get to the top of the backswing, the first thing we do is put the left foot back into its position and then start the downswing and swing through the ball, and then even do a step with the right foot towards the target.
Yeah.
And that just helps people that really struggle with chicken wings and staying on their right side during the swing and hitting the ball fat. It really helps them with that kind of issue. Just gets them moving through the ball with the whole body moving through the ball. And also doing that kind of swing, you can't hit the ball too hard. You can't swing too fast, right, because the whole body has to move as well. So it helps with speed of swing as well, with body speed.
Yeah, that's so interesting. You just got me thinking, what's your philosophy on putting then? Is that different to standard as well?
I'm not sure how different I am there. I think one of the big things that we always ask is what's more important, direction or strength of putt, length of putt. And it's definitely what we teach is definitely the only focus you should be having is how long is the putt. Because I think if you're thinking about direction, a 10% error in direction is a huge error. But a 10% error in length is actually a small error. So the more you can have your focus on length, the more precisely you'll putt. And the thing with direction, there are very few putts that are absolutely dead straight. Almost every putt has a break. And the more break you have, the more possibilities of lines that you have to the target. So if you have a big break, you need to roll the ball higher up the slope for a slower putt. For a slower putt. And if you roll the ball more directly to the hole, then you need to roll the ball faster. Yeah, so there's a lot of different possibilities in there, a lot of different lines. And so if you're looking at the putt and you're thinking, okay, maybe it's half a meter left of the hole, let's say. It doesn't matter if it's 40 or 60 centimeters left of the hole. It doesn't need to be that precise. The only thing that needs to be precise is the length for the line that you choose. So you could play it maybe 30 centimeters or you could play it 60 centimeters, but if you've chosen 50, then choose the right speed for 50. And then you'll actually, on average, you'll be much closer to the hole than if you're also worrying about direction while you're over the ball. It's just too much for the brain to work on.
But again, you're talking about not thinking about the putting stroke.
Exactly. Yeah. I never think about the putting stroke. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. Setup. We'll think about setup. Yeah. But not how the club's moving. Yeah.
Rolf, I've had lots of lessons, believe it or not, and when we talk about positions and so forth, and when you actually left the lesson, you come back and you try to replicate it, it's difficult. But I think your methodology of them feelings and the simplicity of it all, I think you can take it away from the lesson and just keep doing it over and over again without actually forgetting about what you've actually learned. It sounds like the way forward to me.
I think you can certainly integrate it much, much faster than if you're working on technique. And clearly, after someone's had a lesson with us or a day course with us, they still need a little bit of time to integrate it. But it happens much, much faster than when you're working on positions and technique. You can integrate it faster. Yeah, definitely.
Knowing Duncan, he's going to start a German course probably tomorrow. He'll be fluent by the end of the week and he'll be over next week, okay?
Brilliant. I'm ready. Excellent.
I'm a compulsive learner, Rolf.
Okay.
We had the aim point guy on, and I went up 2 days later to have my aim point lesson. So that's how keen I am.
Brilliant. Aim point's really fascinating as well. Yeah.
So, like Duncan said, you walk away from a lesson sometimes and you can get the feelings wrong, the positions wrong, the drills wrong. But in your case, the weight of the club head is simply the weight of the club head.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just a question of, can you feel it? It sounds so simple. Just feel the weight of the club head. But it does take a bit of practice. It does take a bit of time. I mean, it took me probably a year, probably a whole season, until I could really walk off the golf course and say, I felt the weight of the club with every single swing today. It does take a bit of time, but it's a very simple thing.
And if you didn't do what you do now and you did have, let's say, a conventional swing, so you believe that you should be in a certain position, and the takeaway, you believe that you should be a certain position at the top, you believe or not, and whatnot, how much worse of a golfer do you think you'd be?
Well, I think I would then start focusing on the mental side more and work even more on focusing on the target and the end result to support my game more, so that I wouldn't have to think so much about the positions in the swing. But if you're trying to get me to really think of the positions, then I think I would make more mistakes. I think I would struggle more under pressure. I think it comes out when the pressure's there. I think, you can think about technique and positions on the driving range, and you can hit amazing balls. You can go out Sunday afternoon with your mates and you can play great golf. But I think when the pressure's on and you're thinking about what the body's doing, that's the thing that doesn't work. So in tournament conditions, when you're trying to play your best round ever, you got to the 16th tee and you're looking like you're going to play the best round of your life. For most people, it's over when they think that, because then they want to get the swing even better and they've got to get it exactly right. And thinking about your body just unfortunately doesn't work on the golf course.
I was just going to say, Rolf, talk about feeling the weight of the club head. It's very similar to aim point, feeling the slope on the green. So before I went, I was like hyper skeptical that I could never feel even the biggest slope. I couldn't feel it. But within half an hour, I could get the slopes right. And I guess it's exactly the same with, which is actually intent. Your intent is actually feeling the weight of the club head. You'll learn it like a lot quicker than like some mechanical or deep swing thoughts.
Yeah, we get people in like a half-day training. We get them to feel the weight of the club. Definitely. They can definitely feel it by the end of the afternoon.
Yeah.
The problem is when you then go back on the course and there are a lot of consequences around. There are people watching, there's water hazards, there's bunkers, and there's pressure, and you want to show people what you've learned. You automatically drop back into your old habits. And then you start swinging faster. Swinging faster means you're tensing your muscles up during the swing. And as soon as you tense your muscles up, you don't feel anything anymore.
Mm.
So you can learn it very quickly to feel the weight of the club, but to actually apply it on the golf course in pressure situations, that takes a bit more time. Yeah.
That's what and as Mind Factor coaches, that's what we want to do in it. Take their range swing to the golf course and let them perform under pressure. And like you say, a lot of the time they'll think they'll crumble and go back to the old habits.
That's right.
So I think that when they've got something such as just feeling the weight of the club, which is so present and external, that's not really going to let you down in a pressure situation, like thinking of taking the club on the outside would.
Yeah. I think it does under pressure. It holds up better. And one of the other thoughts that we talked about earlier on today was the grip pressure. And the grip pressure is directly related to feeling the weight of the club as well. Yeah, so if you can just focus then on the grip pressure and see what's happening there, because most people in their downswing they'll tense up the grip pressure just before they hit the ball. We actually have a tool that we use, which measures the muscle activity in your arms. So you have sensors that you put on your arms, on your triceps, and on your lower arm, so you can measure the grip strength as well, or the activation of those muscles. And then we get people swinging the club, hitting balls like that, and there's a video with it. So you use the iPad, and you can then go back and you can see at which point in the swing which muscles are tensing up. And sometimes we'll get people in the downswing, they'll tense up so strongly, and we show them this, and then we say, hit another ball, hit another shot, and it's exactly the same. And after 3 or 4 shots, they're like, this machine's broken, and the sensor's not working properly. And then we'll switch the sensors from the left arm and the right arm and do it again, and it's still the same arm. And they just don't feel that the arms are tensing up in the swing. And so if you have an issue like that, then obviously that takes a little bit more time till you can start to relax the muscles during the swing and just use the elasticity as opposed to the strength in the muscles.
I was just going to ask that, Rolf. Pete Cowan's got this thing, I don't know if you see, it's called the towel drill, where you squeeze the towel together. So you got equal opposite like forces. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how much should you actually grip the club? What would your recommendation be?
Okay, great question. I love this. So we actually look at it a little bit more in detail, how the hands work in the swing, and the index finger and the thumb are connected to different muscles in the arm than the 3 smaller fingers. And so the index finger and the thumb, that's the part of the hand that does all the little detail work. We write with that, we'll sew or whatever with those two, with the thumb and the first finger. And actually the 3 smaller fingers are the fingers that have the grip in there. So when you talk about 1 to 5 of grip strengths, there's a difference between the thumb and the first finger and the 3 smaller fingers. So the thumb and the first finger should be as light as possible. But the 3 smaller fingers, you can actually grip quite strongly. On a scale of 1 to 5, it can be a 3 or a 4, probably not a 5, because then you're kind of at your limit. But a 3 or a 4, you can actually grip quite strongly. And the interesting thing is, you can actually try that out if the listeners want to try it out. If you stretch your arm out and you hold the thumb and the first finger together and squeeze really tightly, and then try and move your wrist up and down, and then you do the same thing by just the 3 fingers, and you grip those really tightly, and then move the wrist up and down and feel which one is easier to move the wrist, in which situation is the wrist more flexible. And it's with the 3 fingers and not with the thumb and the first finger. That actually restricts the wrist movement. And if you think about it, if you had a rope in front of you that you were going to climb up, and you only had the choice of the index finger and the thumb to hold the rope, or you had the choice of the 3 little fingers, which would you use to climb up the rope? Which would be much stronger? It would be the 3 fingers, because there's much more strength in that. So that's how you actually hold the club, with the 3 smaller fingers, and the thumb and the index finger you just place on the grip and try and have as little pressure as possible. And so many of our students, you'll see where the thumb's been, there's a big hole in the grip because they're pressing so hard. And that's restricting movement in the wrists. So that's a big issue that we look at. Yeah.
Oh, there's been some fascinating insights. Got me scratching my head on a few things, Rolf.
Brilliant.
Certainly makes sense when you put it the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, if you look on tour, they're not all swinging the same, even though the media and some PGA professionals would beg to differ. But if you're comparing me to Adam Scott and telling me to get to his positions, there's about 1.5 foot in height difference. And, so one of my questions was, how does your swing differ to a standard? I mean, basically, you don't have a standard. Everyone's going to be different.
Everyone's going to be different.
We could get 20 of your students in a row to hit golf balls, and no one would swing the same. And that's the way it should be, really, because we're all different.
Yeah, And I think the thing that you notice with our students when they've been with us for a while is that the swing seems much slower. The club head's still fast, but the swing itself seems slow and rhythmical. Because they're not trying to hit the ball hard, so there's little body movement. It's a very stable body, and the swing is the club is very, very dominant. I think that's a difference that you'd see. That would probably be common with a lot of our students. Yeah.
Amazing. So I think we've learned a lot today, Rolf, and it'd be great for someone, if they can, and they speak German, to certainly come and see you. How can people learn more anyway? Are you on social media, website, etc.?
Yeah, well, we have a website with quite a lot of information on there. That's called bodymind.golf. So the end is golf, not comma or anything like that. So there's information on there. And I mean, if some few people wanted to get together and do a workshop or something, I can certainly do a workshop in English. But all the stuff that I do here in Switzerland, of course, is in German. But I have done stuff in English before as well. So there are options. If people are interested and they get a group together, I'd be happy to show more people what we do and spread the word, because I think we do have a concept that really does work and makes a big difference.
I think it's podcast gold, to be honest. It's such a good listen. It's fascinating. Amazing.
Well, I can honestly say, they say every day's a school day, and this has been one of the best school days I've ever had. It's been
brilliant. Thank you.
Immense. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Rolf. Really appreciate it. And I think this has been an excellent podcast. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, Ben. Thanks, Duncan.